Good afternoon / evening. Looking at the time here, it's week 1, day 3 of the mindfulness journey. I realise this isn't a consecutive day. Yesterday, I ended up spending some time with some family, so took that day out. So picking it up from here today, the 15th of February 2022. I'm going to carry on from or recap, in fact, just from where we left off. Was the the activity was Mr. Right Now, and this is talking about treating whoever you're with as the most important person in the world while you're with them. Listen intently to what they say. As it was that one about kind of putting yourself right in that moment, speaking to them. I will confess, I didn't actually get around to doing that yesterday. I was just enjoying the evening with the family, and just kind of all of them really. So there wasn't one specific person in the family that I could devote that time to. But to be fair, after thinking of it, I felt like this is one that you can just pick up and do any time. Well, in fact, all of these are, but it happens to be that they're in a sort of consecutive order. Anyway, without further ado, we'll move on to the third part of this chapter. So this one's called The End of Worry, and talking of future focus here. So we'll carry on with it. So the author here is saying, no matter what area of life you're focusing on, it is normal for humans to be worried, stressed, and anxious when thinking about the future. Yep, that's definitely right. I've been feeling a lot of it recently, what with being out of work, not knowing what the future holds, and not even knowing what's the next day holds is whilst I think I'm coping fairly well with it, it's definitely still there. So this may seem normal, but we can use the practice of instantaneous breathing, it says here, to bring us into the present moment. Once we're in that space, instantaneous focus then has powerful applications in day-to-day life. One place we can use this skill is in difficult situations. And then it goes on to say what's stressful about a challenge in life is not the situation itself, but the act of thinking about the situation. It's thoughts that are scary if we believe them, and when we get lost in those thoughts, fear and anxiety are almost inevitable. I think we can certainly all identify with that, letting the thought overtake the mind. Most people worry about work when they are working, but when they're safely tucked in their nice warm beds, most people worry about work not when they are working, apologies, but when they're safely tucked into their nice warm beds. Well, I think again we can identify with that. While you're at work, your mind's on work, or it's just you're kind of in the zone, so to speak, and doing work. So it's only when you get home, and I feel like we can certainly all identify with that. Tucked up in bed, suddenly our mind calms a bit and then thinks about all those worries. Then goes on to say, worry is by nature a future focused activity. It's impossible to worry about what is. We can only worry about what might happen in the future, which never comes because it keeps turning into the present. As it said in the beginning of the book, the only thing that's really exists is this moment right here, right now. As a simple example, it goes on to say, when you're sick, your mind may start projecting that you're going to miss work. Your boss is going to be upset, you're not going to be able to go on your holiday, or maybe you're actually going to die. This illness is going to kill you. It's saying that it can get that bad. What's distressing you is not the illness. It's the fear of what will happen because of the illness. I'd like to pick up that bit there, being worried about your boss being upset, not being able to go into work, or worrying about how the shifts will be covered while you're not there. I've seen this countless times in people that I've spoken to that still come in if they're when they should be at home, or they feel that they've got something coming on and they say they don't have time to be ill, they can't be ill. well, I would argue, perhaps the illness is a good chance for you to take that time to slow down, and get yourself better. Because without your health, you got nothing, right? It then goes on to say a similar example can be money. It's something a lot of people worry about, and something that says the author here has spent plenty of time worrying about themselves. And I'll confess, something I've definitely been worrying about this last month. Being out of work's not easy. Working out where the next amount of money is going to come from is it's definitely a worry. The worry is very rarely about now. I'm not necessarily worrying about this moment right now. I'm worrying about the next week or the next month even. The author said there, the fear is that they won't be able to afford this, or won't be able to do that, or not going to be able to pay the rent or afford food next week. Well, there you go. That's two of the things there that I'm definitely worrying about: food and rent. And that I imagine many, many of us also worry about. Although these are challenging situations, the fear, again, is about the future, because when you get to the spot where you can't pay, there is nothing to worry about anymore. It has already happened. That's a good point. Continues here, all you really need to do is pay attention to one part of your life, this instant. Now that sounds much, much easier said than done. Rather than worrying about the whole thing or what might happen next, rather than trying to deal with the imaginary, just deal with the fact. And it goes back here to illness. Right now I am sick, my body is sick and I need to rest. Or for, I imagine, a lot of people, it's your mind, right? Mental health. Certainly with the last 2 years of what's been happening, I imagine that there's almost an epidemic of people with poor mental health as well. Saying that you need to rest, you're going to go to bed now, not going into work, turning off the phone, resting, and let the body take care of what happens next. Ultimately, it's down to your body. It's your immune system. It will do what it does. Although I imagine under duress, if you carry on trying to work through it, then it's less likely to work. As well as it should work, shall I say. It then continues here. If I then wake up and I'm not feeling better, I might decide to take some other action. I might take medication, might go to the doctors, might stick my head over a steaming bowl of water, whatever is needed. I make that decision, it says, or that decision makes itself, and I act and then leave it behind, just like the last breath. I just leave it behind. I keep walking this razor's edge of now, staying with his exact peace, this exact instant of my experience. That's an interesting analogy that you use there, but you're literally on that tiny edge of, it's now, kind of being aware of, obviously it's imaginary, to the left the past perhaps, and to the right, or better still, behind you the past, and in front of you the future. This exact instant of my experience, the only instant that exists, which is now. You are no longer worrying about the next now or the last now. It's just this. It's all just this. And suddenly it's saying then difficult situations aren't difficult anymore. They are just challenges that either require action or don't. If they require action, you act, and if not, you leave it. Very simple. I'm just going to pause there. What was that you just said there? It's just challenges that either require action or don't. That leads me onto something that I don't know the source of this quote, but it's something to do with making a list of, obviously if you have a list of worries, one of the best ways, or a way that you can deal with that, is write down all your worries, then cross out all of the things cross out all of the things that you can't control, and then just deal with the things that are left, which are the things that you can control. And basically, bringing it back to this, the only thing you can control is your own reaction in that moment. Your own actions. Like, you can never control someone else's actions. I mean, you can try, but I imagine that leads to, you know, I don't imagine, I know that leads to many issues. Anyway, so just to bring it back to the chapter, so yeah, if they require action, you will act, and if not, you leave it. Very simple. There you go. It just ties in with exactly what I've just said there. The stuff that you can't control, you cross it off, you leave it, and the stuff you can control, then you act on it. The mind will try to complicate this and say, yeah, but what about, what if? It's naturally what it does. You'll start thinking, but there is no situation where being in the now doesn't apply. In any situation, all you can do is act in the best way you can, or not act at all. There is no other path or option. With this kept in mind, then life is very simple. Yeah, I would agree there. Then what happens to worry? It says it dissolves, and as it dissolves, the energy you were spending on futile worrying becomes free to be used in your action now. It's as if you have millions of pounds that you kept throwing down a well, planning for the future, but leaving barely enough for you to enjoy this moment. This is how the mind operates. It goes on to say, as if the future were more important than what it is. So when you stop throwing money down that well, the energy is yours. And when you spend that energy in the one place and time you can actually do some good, in the now, you will be a blessing to those around you. Yeah, I'd like to elaborate on that one. So they're saying, to be a blessing to those around you. Certainly, I feel like lately that, I'm not necessarily doing the kind things that I do, even for myself. If I can see that it makes someone else happy, or it makes their day slightly better, then that makes me feel, I think, even better than if I were just doing it for myself. I hope there's many of you out there that can identify with that. There's certainly something to be said for that. Just being kind, and it can literally be a few seconds type thing. One thing that I always try and do, even if it's a complete stranger I see out, perhaps if you let them pass or whatever, I notice that they're wearing a nice top or their hair looks good, I'll compliment them. And I like to think, just that tiny moment they'll remember, and even if they don't remember that moment, perhaps they'll remember the feeling, how it made them feel in that moment when I complimented them. So it's just those tiny little things, and I think that comes back to just being conscious in that moment. It's like, oh, perhaps this person would like a compliment. Or actually, no, I don't even think it's that. I just think it's I genuinely like that thing that they're wearing, so I'll tell them. Not really thinking much beyond that. It's just, I'm just saying it. Ending worry is as simple as that. It says, every time it arises, take attention from the thoughts about the future and place it on the present moment's activities. And as worry dissolves, that energy is yours to spend as you wish. I think we're at the end of that little bit. Yeah, that was quite a short one. Although saying that, this looks to be quite a long activity. So, the activity here then, it says, is turning worry into power. Consider an activity, a relationship, or a situation in which you spend a great deal of energy pre-planning and worrying. In which you spend it. This might be something you avoid, like completing your tax return, a situation you find challenging, like having a difficult conversation with a work colleague, or spending time with someone you try to avoid at family gatherings, for example. When you think back on the days and weeks heading up to this event, how much time and energy did you invest in pre-worrying? How many hours or days did you spend imagining what might happen and mentally preparing for it? And what was the return on that investment? Did you deal with the situation any better than you could have done with minimal pre-planning? Or was it more difficult because of your elevated heart rate, sweaty palms and racing thoughts just beforehand? Be honest with yourself and consider this alternative. Think of something you're anticipating now, something that you're expecting in the next week and which is consuming some of your time and energy. For the next 24 hours, every time you find yourself devoting energy to that worry, take a mindful breath and return your attention to whatever you are doing at this instant. As you do so, notice how your experience of life changes when you are primarily focused on life as it is in this instant. Well, there we go. A little bit to unpack there, but yeah, I think obviously the main point of that is taking something that you can spend, certainly some of your time worrying about, an event that running up to an event, and you're spending that time worrying about it, and just try and take that mindful breath. And I suppose what that means is literally, I would argue it would probably be a few breaths, but just literally focus on your breathing, nothing else. I think what I've read in another little sort of daily mindfulness activities book is just focus on how the breath feels. Literally watch your chest and your tummy rise and fall, and then just notice how it feels in the body. Notice what parts of your body move when you're breathing. Just focus on that. And also, it's the miracle of breath. That's giving you life. So, so there we go. A little bit of a shorter one today. But yeah, I plan to be back tomorrow, hopefully a little earlier than this, but I had a busy day today as well, so there we go. Leave you with those thoughts. If you're liking these, please let me know, please comment on them. If not, give them a like, share the video, and if you want to like and subscribe to the channel, then please do. That would be much appreciated. But for now, I'll leave you all. Have a lovely evening and take care. Much love.